Would you like to know more about the changes that are happening in today's real estate market? Well, we've got a market shift happening, this NAR settlement thing, and I've been inundated with calls from many of you asking the same question. How did these changes affect me as a buyer or a seller? So I decided that I would do an entire video on all of these changes and how they would affect you, whether you're selling a home or buying a home in today's market. Well, hi there. My name is Luane. I am with the Glover Agency in Fenton, Michigan, and I have kind of a freaky habit of making videos about Mid-Michigan real estate. Everything about real estate that you need to know in Mid-Michigan. And if you're a freak like me, then you're going to want to hit like and subscribe so that you can also be informed, and we'll meet here every single week when we drop a new video. And I don't just hang around making videos all day. I am also a full-time realtor, and I work in the market every single day. So if you are looking at buying, selling, or building a home in Mid-Michigan in the next 6 days, 6 weeks, or 6 months, you need to reach out. My contact information is below, or you can leave a comment. So the number one biggest thing that you need to know about these changes is that whole structure, commission structure in real estate is changing. No longer will we be able to publish buyer agent commissions in the MLS. So wherever you get your info from, Redfin, Trulia, Homes.com, it's not going to be on there because it's not going to be on the MLS, and all that information starts there. In the past, we always had the buyer's agent commission listed in the listing, and that is not happening anymore. I can tell you that in our area, most MLSs have stopped putting that information out there already several weeks ago. But August 17th is the day that all these laws go into effect. So if you're a realtor out there, you need to be getting all these new forms together and understand what they're about before that date. And guess what? If we don't all follow these rules together, we're going to be getting in trouble, getting our hands slapped, and basically being in really deep doo-doo. So this is happening nationwide. I'm not going to get into really deep detail about how or why these changes took effect, but I do want to tell you that the commission is and always has been negotiable. And apparently there were people who didn't realize that. And this new change isn't so much about what you are paying as how you are paying. So prior to this change, commission was paid by the seller's agent to the buyer's agent. And then when the seller went out and bought a new house, becoming a buyer, their commission was in turn paid for by the seller of that home. And so it has gone for decades. And one of the reasons that this had become so important is because buyers previous to these changes, to buyer's agency, were not getting any representation at all. So if you could imagine that somebody sues you and you go into court by yourself to defend yourself, and they have like 3 or 4 really high paid attorneys, you're kind of going to be at a disadvantage there because those attorneys work there every single day. They understand the verbiage, they understand what the norms are in the courtroom, and you don't. What do they say? A client who defends himself has a fool for a client? Or an attorney who defends himself has a fool for a client? Well, the same is true in real estate. So apparently, before, when the buyer had to just always go to the listing agent, there were situations where buyers felt that it wasn't fair or that they were being misled. And this is how the buyer's agency was developed. And because buyers have so much that they have to bring to the table already to close a real estate transaction, like their down payment, their closing costs, their tax prorations, they have to set up an escrow account, they have inspections, etc. It was determined that the seller would cover those costs on behalf of the buyer so that they could have representation and it wouldn't be unfairly burdening them. The seller would contract the listing agent to sell their home. The listing agent would then put the home on the MLS and offer out a portion, if not half, of the listing commission to a buyer's agent so that they would bring their buyers to the property. And this is kind of what the MLS was actually developed for, as a place where agents could cooperate and find buyers and sellers for their properties and cooperate with each other to serve their clients better. Now, what is changing now is that portion that is being offered out to the buyer's agent is no longer going to be published anywhere, which is kind of weird because the whole point of this was about transparency, but I don't know, that just seems a little less transparent for buyers and buyer's agents. One thing is before an agent can even show your home, they have to have their buyer sign a buyer's broker agreement, agreeing basically to pay their buyer's agent either a percentage or a flat fee upon the purchase of a home. And this is going to be for their buyer's representation. And we have to have this in place before you can see even one home. And I can hear a lot of people out there who got their home on the market. They're like, yeah, well, I don't have to pay a commission and I'm not paying one. I'm not paying a buyer's agent and nobody can make me. Well, newsflash, you never had to. You just probably weren't aware of that, or the way that your agent explained it, you didn't understand that this was a negotiable situation. And a lot of people didn't realize that commissions are and always have been negotiable. And that's kind of what the whole thing was about, I guess, is they thought we were doing something with commissions to fix them. I'm not really sure. With commissions being negotiable, the operative word there is they are negotiable. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think that a listing agent who went out and got the appointment and got the seller to sign the contract and is going to put the house on the market, why would they offer out any of their commission to a buyer's agent on the MLS? I mean, couldn't they just do this themselves? Well, actually, no. Because we know to get the best price for your home, we need to get as much exposure as we can to buyers. And the best way to do that is through the MLS and through the buyer's agents. This is how we end up getting multiple offers on properties, is by building that excitement. And in the past, this was all available to be seen on the MLS, but all of that stopped. So now the buyer's agent has to negotiate with the buyer and then the seller's agent and the seller to try to get their commission covered. And your buyers now have to sign an agreement before they can even be shown a property. And we're having to do this because we don't know if the seller will be offering any type of compensation to the buyer's agent or not. Chances are now when you get an offer from a buyer, it's going to come with one of these little pieces of paper called a seller's payment to buyer broker. And this basically means that your buyer is going to make you an offer and they are going to ask you to pay the commissions of the buyer's agent. Now, I know you guys hear that sellers are saying that they're not going to pay any agent commission. There's been all kinds of talk about commissions dropping. And you're right. You're absolutely correct. But you also need to understand that you can be right or you can sell your home. Let me share a short story. A couple years ago, I had an acquaintance who decided that they wanted to sell their home on their own. And what he decided, he was moving out of state, he got a new job, and he wanted to get the property sold, and he said, I'm greedy, I want as much money in my pocket. That's exactly what he said to me, as I can get. So he found an agent that would take a fee to put his property on the MLS. And so the property went on the MLS and it was overpriced. And he also was only offering 1% to the buyer's agent. And homes at that point were selling within the week, if that long, especially in the area that this person was in. So the house sat for 90 days on the market without an offer. And with the new job starting in 30 days, he got a little panicky and he hired the agent that he had paid to put him on the MLS to represent him. And I don't really know the guidelines or the particulars of that particular contract, but I do know that they reduced the price twice before they got it sold. And he did actually make it to his new job on time, but it was very, very stressful because it was all last minute. First off, if you're an agent and you're selling your access to the MLS, chances are you're probably not the most skilled agent and probably not the most ethical. So he kind of hired his agent by default. But did he leave money on the table? Well, let me tell you something. That house came back up on the market just 11 months after it had sold. And it was listed by an agent, and it sold for $40,000 more than my friend got for the property. Now, the market hasn't gone up that much. So the difference clearly was the fact that it was priced right for the market. It was marketed and exposed, and they were also paying out a good commission, a good percentage, to a buyer's agent. And so that home could have sold for much more money and in days, not months. So in my opinion, yes, that seller did leave money on the table. And no, you don't have to pay out an agent commission, but you also have to understand that you may not have a buyer for your home. So what I've been telling my sellers is that you need to be open to every offer that comes in, because we need to look at all the points of the offer and compare them all. Just because somebody is asking for commission doesn't mean that their offer might not be the best offer. And I know a lot of people are watching the headlines, they're hearing snippets about this, and they're hearing about the economy not being what it is, and that the real estate market is starting to shift. It's definitely stabilizing now. I did not say that it was crashing. I did not say we were taking a nosedive. It's just simply getting stabilized. We still have low inventory, but it is shifting. And in the meantime, we're getting lots of phone calls from people who are unsure of what their home might be worth, if the market is what it should be, if it's the best time for them to sell. Some of them don't know if they can trust the news, if they can trust their agents. Well, it is true that the days on the market are ticking up and things are changing a little bit from the craziness of after COVID. You just want to remember not to be too firm about what you say you will or will not do. And the bottom line is, if you want to sell your home, you're going to have to cooperate with the market. And that probably means paying all or some of a buyer's agent's commission. Now, as a buyer, the first thing that you're going to notice, obviously, is that you are going to have to sign a buyer's agency agreement before you can even see a home. And I know for my clients, I usually don't ask them to do this, especially if I'm just starting to work with them, until we've built some kind of rapport and that we want to work together. Because these forms have been around for a long time. They just weren't readily used until we either were putting somebody under contract to purchase a home and we had to notify the listing agent that we were representing the buyer, or because we had built a rapport with the client and they wanted to work with us. As I mentioned, these forms have been around for a while, but oftentimes they weren't used until we either felt we had built rapport with the client or we were writing an offer for them and had to notify the listing agent of our buyer's agency. So what I've been doing is I just write the contract for that day or that home or a shorter period of time, and then we would put you under contract when you decide you want to work with me. And in this contract, it says that you agree to pay a percentage or a flat fee upon the purchase of a new home. Smart sellers are going to be offering concessions to their buyers, and smart buyers are going to remain open-minded that they may end up paying a portion of their agent's commission or all of it if the seller isn't willing to do that. But I'm telling you, it is so worth not forgoing representation. It's kind of like the buyer beware. But the thing that scares me about this, and I really hate for buyers, is that I think a lot of buyers are going to misunderstand and they think that they're going to save the commission by going straight to the listing agent. And they don't understand that that listing agent is contractually obligated to represent the seller's best interests in the transaction. They also don't understand how listing fees work and some of the ways that we work out listing fees. Generally speaking, when I list a home, I'm going to, let's say that I say I'm going to list the home for 6%. Now, in the event that my seller is selling the home with me and maybe buying a new home, then I might come back and give them a break on the commission for that. If I bring the buyer myself to their home, I might give them a break for that. So you have to understand as a buyer that you cannot save the same commission that the seller is paying to their agent already, and that they've agreed to do that. You're both not going to be able, one's not going to be able to make money and the other one can't save the same monies. The reason that many agents drop their commission is because they are doing both sides of the transaction. Remember that when that agent, that listing agent, is handling your side of the transaction, they are working in the best interest of the seller. So when you come to a position where you two are against each other, whether you're negotiating price, inspections, or so on, in the eyes of the listing agent, you're last. And if you ain't first, you're last. And trust me, a seasoned agent is going to earn more for their client when they are negotiating against you, because technically you're negotiating against yourself. So in the end, you really aren't saving anything by foregoing. And I promise you that good agents are going to be negotiating on behalf of their clients with the sellers and the listing agent to try to get their commissions covered. And you know, when things are going smooth, they're going smooth. But when you get in a situation where the agent has to put somebody's best interest first, you are going to be the last. So let me kind of demonstrate this. So last week I got a phone call from a buyer of a property, and let's say this buyer has no representation. So he calls me to say, hey, I want to schedule my inspection. I got my guy all lined up. Oh, that's great. Okay, I want to schedule it for this Wednesday at this time. And then the listing agent, myself, says, well, that's great. You are more than welcome to have an inspection of the property. However, since your due diligence period has passed, any findings from your inspection are only for your information. You cannot expect the seller to pay for any credits or repairs to the property since your due diligence period's over. And the buyer was like, what do you mean my due diligence is over? It starts when I schedule the inspection. Actually, no, it started when you signed the purchase agreement. And it was over 3 days ago. And so in this situation, this buyer just lost the ability to inspect the property and ask for any types of repairs or credits based on the condition of the property. Trust me, when you're buying and selling a home, and especially buying, you have so much going on. You're working with a lender, you might be selling your home simultaneously, you're trying to get packed, and there's a lot going on. And if you don't have somebody that's paying attention to the timelines and the particulars of your contract, it's very easy to miss things. And that's one of the reasons it's so important for a buyer to have an agent to help them through this process. And if anything's not right in the paperwork and you're representing yourself, then that's on you. And some of the paperwork, if you don't do the right paperwork, you can get a $50,000 fine. Basically, what a buyer's agent is doing for you is they are making sure that you are not showing up to OK Corral by yourself on the wrong day with no bullets for your gun. So the biggest takeaway here is to not go unrepresented thinking that you're going to save money, because you probably won't. What's really changing, as I said, is that you have to be prepared to look at all situations and to be prepared to either negotiate with the seller to pay your commission or to be willing to pay your agent's commission or a portion thereof. Now I'm going to ask you guys all here to like and subscribe again, because I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers in the next month, and I'm so close. So, I expect that in a month or so that this is all going to be old hat. We're all going to be doing this like we've been doing it for 100 years, just like we were doing with the other type of, the other buyer agency program, and it'll be fine. But for right now, it's going to be a little clunky. We're all getting used to this new situation and how to work within it. So give us a little grace, and I will see you next week. Same place, same time. Thank you.